Wait, is that? No, it couldn't be. They're dead, right? Or are they? If you ask a lot of people, death is just another obstacle for your favorite celebrities. Here are 20 of the craziest celebrity conspiracy theories of all time. Number 20. The King isn't dead. There's no bigger star in music history than Elvis Presley. The music phenomenon kept performing up until his 40s, even though the older Elvis was far from the hip-swinging sensation he was as a young idol. When he died at 42 in 1977, fans were devastated. It was one of the biggest outpourings of grief in celebrity history. But not long after his death, something strange happened. People started claiming that they were still seeing him around. Did the King somehow survive his reported death from heart disease? Did he fake his own death to escape the pressure of performing for millions? What is the answer to the mystery of Elvis's death? To get a clue, you might want to take a walk through Las Vegas. You probably can't go too far without seeing an Elvis impersonator. Decades later, he's still one of the biggest musical icons of all time, and that means he'll never disappear long after he's gone. You might even be able to get married by him. The people who reported seeing Elvis probably did, but it wasn't the genuine article. As for his death, he underwent a thorough autopsy immediately after his death and was laid to rest in Graceland. The King has passed, no matter what the tabloids say. He wasn't the only musical icon to have rumors swirling around him. Number 19. A pale imitation? Michael Jackson burst onto the scene as one of the members of the Jackson 5 and soon attained far bigger successes than his siblings as a solo artist. But fans started to notice something odd. He didn't really look like himself anymore. He started out as a curly-haired young African-American boy, but as he grew older, his hair straightened and his skin seemed to get paler and paler and paler until he looked like a completely different person. Many people started to speculate that Michael Jackson was deliberately bleaching his skin. Was the famous pop star trying to change his race? Those who thought Jackson's skin was changing weren't wrong. Anyone could see it. And they also weren't wrong that he was having a lot of plastic surgery. The change in his nose was extremely visible, but the fact that he was deliberately making himself lighter skinned turned out to just be a rumor. In fact, Jackson had been diagnosed with vitiligo in 1998, a skin condition that leads to unpredictable pigment changes. It was one of the many reasons the pop star became increasingly reclusive until his death in 2009. Another distinctive feature of a singer that raised some eyebrows? Number 18. Wave to Stevie. It was one of the most spoofed moments of the George W. Bush presidency when the younger Bush waved to the iconic R&B singer Stevie Wonder. The problem with that? Wonder has been blind since shortly after he was born. Or is he? While most of the commentary made fun of Bush's mental lapse, other people started wondering if the music legend might be faking it. Believers pointed to a moment when he picked up a fallen microphone on stage surprisingly quickly, and he sure does like to attend basketball games for a guy who can't see. Could it be true? And more importantly, why? Well, the answer might come from a comic book superhero, the vigilante Daredevil, who is blind but has other enhanced senses. Stevie Wonder might not have radar sense, but it's not uncommon for blind people to develop an acute sense of hearing and touch. Wonder likely sensed the vibration of the microphone and knew where it fell. Additionally, the story of how he lost his sight is well known, and it matches up with medical science. And he would have had to be faking it for decades. Why exactly? Come on, Stevie Wonder's voice is good enough that anyone would be listening to him even if he could see. Some of these theories make you wonder, what are people thinking? Number 17. The Great Switcheroo. It was one of the most bizarre and terrible unsolved mysteries of the 1990s, the murder of a young pageant queen, JonBenet Ramsey, in 1996. The blonde 7-year-old was found dead in her home, and police investigated all her family members and assorted creepy outsiders. But the murder was never solved. More than a decade later, offbeat pop singer Katy Perry burst onto the scene with massive hits like I Kissed a Girl. What do these two facts have in common? Some conspirators believe that Ramsey's death was faked and that she's actually Perry. The two have the same parents. And the switcheroo was facilitated as part of a satanic Mason ritual. Wait, what? If you're looking for evidence of this wacky theory, you might be looking for a while. The key piece of evidence the believers point to is the fact that their facial features are slightly similar, and their parents have slightly similar appearances as well. Working against it, well, for one thing, JonBenet Ramsey's mother died not too long after her daughter, and Perry's mother is alive and well. Also, Katy Perry is 6 years older than JonBenet was, which would make it pretty difficult to switch the two out. Perry's father, a well-known Pentecostal pastor, would likely not be amused by this nonsense. Sometimes there's a glimmer of truth to a conspiracy, and that's about it. Number 16. Marky Mark? No! Mark Wahlberg has had a wild career. He started out as the youngest member of the New Kids on the Block, complete with the nickname Marky Mark. When his music career petered out, he dovetailed that into an acting career and has starred in some of the biggest action movies of all time. But amid that success, rumors circle of a dark past, one where he committed violent hate crimes. He has a criminal record and his restaurant Wahlburgers can't get a liquor license because of it. But did he really beat a man so severely that he blinded him? Like most things in Hollywood, that answer isn't so simple. When he was only 15, Wahlberg and a gang of friends chased 3 young black girls and threw rocks at them. While he wasn't charged criminally, he did face a lawsuit for harassment. 2 years later, he brutally attacked Vietnamese-American Johnny Trin, injuring the man's eye and believing he had blinded him. When people were reminded of this decades later, many said it was unforgivable. The one person who disagreed? Johnny Trin, who surfaced from obscurity to state that he'd actually lost the eye in the Vietnam War. Wahlberg served time in jail for the assault, but he's innocent of blinding anyone. Sometimes the celebrity himself isn't the best source. Number 15. MC of murder? Chuck Barris is an eccentric guy, and when you go to his social media, you might just find him spreading some conspiracy theories about himself. Best known as the host of the wacky talent competition The Gong Show, the man has been working in Hollywood since the 60s but fell out of focus after several flops. In the 1980s, he tried to make a comeback by publishing an autobiography and made some wild claims, including that he secretly worked for the CIA in the 1960s, and not as a paper pusher. Barris claims to have been a deadly assassin who killed dozens of people. And those rumors spread far and wide. The autobiography was outrageous enough that Hollywood came calling, and it even got a movie adaptation in 2002 with Sam Rockwell playing Barris. So naturally, people wondered, was the offbeat game show host a truly cold-blooded killer? Well, the CIA says no. In fact, they claim Barris never worked for them in any capacity. But the conspiracy theorists say, of course they'd say that. Well, how about the man himself? Turns out that Barris admitted making the whole story up, way back in 1984 after the release of the book. But why let a little thing like the truth get in the way of a good story? It wasn't the only time the CIA was the subject of a celebrity conspiracy. Number 14. Murder of a heartthrob? Back in the 50s, there was no bigger movie star than James Dean. The charismatic actor had only appeared in a few movies, but the rebel without a cause had a legion of adoring fans. Unfortunately, his bad boy personality wasn't just a character he played on the screen. He liked to live fast, and that ended tragically when he died in a car crash at only 24. It was ruled an accident caused by fast driving, but others thought it was a little too convenient. After all, Dean's rebellious pose made a lot of people very angry, and many would have liked to see him gone. Was James Dean actually murdered? Like most conspiracy theories, this one seems to have started with the conclusion and tried to find the evidence from there. Dean's death is consistent with high-speed car accidents, and there were several survivors who could testify about the circumstances. While the government might have thought Dean was a bad influence on America's youth, especially during the 1950s, when anti-communist sentiment was likely high and Hollywood was trying to project a wholesome image, it's unlikely they would have killed him when they could have just drafted him like they did Elvis. Sometimes people like to make things up. Number 13. Larry is real? The boy band One Direction was the hottest musical act to come out of Britain in a long time. But like the Beatles before them, all good things must come to an end. The band broke up with the members heading off to do solo projects, but a particular group of fans had a hard time letting go. Not only did they love the band's music, but they believed that the band members Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson were actually dating. The fact that Styles was prominently involved with various women and Tomlinson was happily married did not deter them. What was the root of this bizarre conspiracy? Would you believe fan fiction? Countless fans were writing stories about the two singers and posting them on the internet, and some actually believed that it was being covered up. The conspiracy went so far that when Tomlinson threw a baby doll off the stage at a concert, some claimed it was a coded message that the baby his wife was having was a hoax. Well, that son is almost 5 years old now, and Styles is still happily dating actress Olivia Wilde, so the supporters of the conspiracy are swimming in some rough waters. And it's not the only long-term act some conspiracists hold on to. Number 12. Oh Lorde. Lorde has been one of the biggest surprises in music since she came on the scene as a teenager. The prodigy songstress has a surprisingly mature voice for her age. She also sings about surprisingly mature topics, and her fashion sense seems surprisingly mature as well for someone who's only 25 as of 2022. That's led some people to the only logical conclusion, that Lorde is actually a woman in her 40s who has pulled off an elaborate scheme to pretend to be 20 years younger so she can break into the music industry. Wait, what? Yeah, we're kind of confused too. It's not impossible. There have been cases of people being arrested for pretending to be teenagers to go back to high school, but life isn't the TV show Younger, where Sutton Foster impersonates a 20-something to get a job, and the evidence for Lorde being an imposter in the youth-friendly pop scene is non-existent, making it even more ridiculous. Music isn't a field where people can't succeed if they're older. The only evidence that believers have is that pictures of Lorde's birth certificate look unusual, but she's from New Zealand and we're guessing most of the conspirators aren't. But is one of Hollywood's biggest icons secretly a cold-blooded killer? Number 11. Wonder Woman or War Machine? Gal Gadot has exploded onto the scene as a superstar since she was cast as Wonder Woman, and the Israeli action star has amassed a legion of fans. But is there a darker side to the Amazon superhero? If you go on the internet, you can't mention her name without people claiming to know the shocking truth, that she's actually a brutal Israeli soldier who apparently has countless kills to her name. Some of the claims are even more extreme, like the fact that she supposedly marked her rifle with a notch for every person she killed. Tensions remain high around the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and both sides have strong opinions about Hollywood's resident Amazon. But what do the facts say? The conspiracists do get one basic fact right. Gal Gadot is a trained former member of the Israeli Defense Forces, but so is almost every single Israeli man and woman, because Israel has a universal conscription and teenagers serve 2 to 3 years in the military after leaving high school. That explains Gadot's fighting skills, but what about her actions in war? That's a different story because the majority of the women in the Israeli military serve in support roles and never see combat. Gadot in particular served as a fitness trainer, and there is zero evidence of her killing anyone, unless those workouts were a lot more intense than expected. The celebrity may have actually been an accidental bystander in this next one. Number 10. And the winner is… It was the flub heard around the world when Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway accidentally announced the wrong Best Picture winner at the Oscars. But was it truly the first time this had happened? Rumors circled around the strange events in 1993 when elderly Hollywood legend Jack Palance presented the award for Best Supporting Actress. The unexpected winner was young Marissa Tomei for My Cousin Vinny, over such legends such as Joan Plowright and Vanessa Redgrave. The entire audience seemed stunned, including Tomei herself. But was there more afoot than an Oscar upset? Rumors centered around Palance, who some said seemed nervous on the stage, accidentally reading the wrong name. An anonymous tip to The Hollywood Reporter claimed that a scandal was about to break regarding the win, and everyone waited and waited and waited and waited. Those who believe the conspiracy insist that the Academy just decided to cover it up to avoid embarrassment. But all those bizarre results from the Academy in the year after that probably put it to rest. Remember Crash? Sometimes the Oscars are just like that. This next conspiracy will make you say, whoa. Number 9. The Strange Life of Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves might have started his career as a comedy actor, but he soon became one of Hollywood's action legends. From escaping an explosive bus in Speed, to defying the robot overlords in The Matrix, to avenging his dog in John Wick, he never seemed to lose a step. And surprisingly, as the decades passed, he never seemed to really age either. His hair was just as jet black, his skin almost as smooth, and his kicks were just as powerful. Had Keanu Reeves truly unlocked the secrets of the Fountain of Youth? Some people speculate he might be an immortal among us, but the reality is likely a lot less spectacular. Some people are just gifted with great genetics, and Reeves is probably one of them, still being able to kick butts and take names in his 50s. Additionally, celebrities are very wealthy, and that means they can get any little imperfections taken care of by specialists out of sight. And when The Matrix Resurrections debuted in 2021, fans who watched the whole series back-to-back could definitely see that Reeves had aged. That wasn't stopping people from theorizing about the existence of a secret group of immortals among Hollywood's elites. Alas, the theory that Betty White is one of them seems to have been debunked as well. Now let's head across the pond to look at some very different celebrities. Number 8. Prince of Darkness. Prince Charles isn't exactly a beloved celebrity, and the heir to the British throne has had some bad PR moments over the years, but is he actually an unholy creature? Some conspiracy theorists claim that Charles is a vampire and will turn over Britain to the creatures of the night once he takes over. While many of the people who believe this have likely never forgiven him for the divorce, others point to actual evidence, including the fact that he seems to avoid the sun, and he has actual ties to surprising regions of Europe. Is there any truth to this terrifying rumor? Would it surprise you to know that Charles's family tree has a very notorious ancestor, Vlad the Impaler? The Transylvanian ruler who inspired the character of Dracula had a half-brother who was Charles's distant ancestor. That led to him appearing in a promotional video for the Romanian Tourist Bureau, and he was even offered the title of Prince of Transylvania, but he didn't take it. Of course, old Vladi wasn't actually a vampire, probably, but what about that sun thing? Well, the royals have a tendency towards porphyria, a condition that makes people more likely to burn in the sun. So Charles isn't likely a vampire, but this theory isn't going away anytime soon. Neither is the most notorious royal family conspiracy of all time. Number 7. Diana was murdered. There's no modern royal more beloved than Diana, Princess of Wales. Even after her divorce from Prince Charles, she remained a global celebrity and activist. The public watched the drama as she found new love with Dodi Al Fayed, and then were horrified when she died in 1997 in a car crash in a Paris tunnel. The blame for the fatal car crash fell on photographers who were chasing her and her new beau in an enclosed space. But as the global mourning continued, other people asked, was her death truly an accident? Or did someone have a reason to want her dead? The suspicion fell firmly on the rest of the royal family. That nasty divorce had been one of their biggest scandals in a long time, with both sides accused of infidelity. The circumstances of the car crash meant it happened completely out of sight, and the only survivor was seriously injured and didn't remember any details of the crash. Dodi Al-Fayed was also killed in the crash, and his father claimed a conspiracy when he sued in France, but his claims were dismissed. Much like the deaths of Elvis and James Dean, this tragedy was so high profile that the investigation would likely have turned up any evidence of foul play, but that hasn't stopped the conspiracies. This next one dates back decades and is 2 conspiracy theories in one. Number 6. They froze what? The death of beloved entrepreneur Walt Disney from cancer sent shockwaves through Hollywood, and many people had trouble letting him go. His legacy looms large over the company, but is he still with us in another way? Rumors persisted for decades that Disney had been cryogenically frozen, either just his head or his whole body, depending on who you ask. The family denied this, saying he was just cremated and buried, and at the time, cryogenics technology would have been highly unlikely to preserve a body. Even today, it's never been used to revive anyone. But that didn't stop millions from searching. Was Walt Disney frozen? The conspiracy took another wild turn in 2013, when Disney released a wildly popular animated movie called Frozen. The story of 2 sisters, one with magical ice powers, became the company's top-grossing animated film ever at the time. And then suddenly, if you Googled Disney Frozen, you wouldn't be getting any reports about where Walt's body supposedly was. The theorists claim that the movie was released specifically to throw people off the trail, but it's probably more than likely that the company just liked the billions of dollars the franchise was going to make them. Some people think celebrities are a lot more important than they actually are. Number 5. It's Britney, Mr. President? Britney Spears was the most popular pop star in the world as the 2000s dawned, and then things took a dark turn. She was involved in a controversial divorce, followed by a dramatic mental breakdown, most famously shaving her head and smashing a car windshield with an umbrella. She eventually wound up in a conservatorship that lasted over 10 years and culminated in a dramatic court case where she won her independence, a tragic cautionary tale about the pressure on child stars. Or was it? Some people thought there was a much bigger hand behind Britney's breakdown. Britney Spears' issues began just as President George W. Bush's approval ratings started crashing. Conspirators pointed to her escapades, taking the headlines away from negative events in the administration, and came up with a theory that she was a paid agent of the president. The best evidence against this, besides being crazy, her problems continued long after Bush left office. Although, given that the Free Britney movement really picked up during the Trump administration, the conspiracists will probably be coming back for round 2. Some theories put famous figures at the center of real events. Number 4. The real killer? A man named Steve Lightfoot bursts into a town council meeting in Florida. He has information of a murder. The victim? None other than John Lennon, the beloved songwriter of the Beatles. What's that you say? The killer, Mark David Chapman, was caught after the murder and remains in prison to this day? Lightfoot believes that's a hoax because the real killer is still out there. In fact, he's a household name by the name of Stephen King, the iconic horror writer. Is the man behind Pennywise and Carrie really holding a dark secret of his own? Wait, what? This one might be more fringe, but every time someone yells a conspiracy loudly enough, people will believe it. Lennon's death has long been fodder for conspiracists, with people suspecting that the government could have had him killed due to his anti-war activism. But Stephen King, who was 33 in 1980, was nowhere near the killing. The evidence Lightfoot presents for the theory is that the 2 men sorta look alike. But to debunk this theory, people would really only need to talk to the confessed killer, who again is right where they left him. But that's nothing compared to this next historical event. Number 3. To the moon? The moon landing remains one of America's greatest achievements, but many people insist it never happened. Why? Because it happened so fast, and it's hard to believe Americans could achieve something so spectacular in such a short time. They point to random bits of evidence in the grainy pictures, but the event is so well documented that most people accept the historical narrative. Besides, to fake such a huge event, the government would need a lot of talent, and the conspiracists claim they had it, in the form of one of the best directors of all time. Was Stanley Kubrick the world's greatest hoaxer? The main evidence of this is the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, released a year after the moon landing. Conspiracists think there are subtle clues in it pointing to Kubrick's involvement. There's also supposedly an interview where Kubrick admits faking the footage, except that it wasn't Kubrick. The footage of the interview was from the conspiracy documentary by T. Patrick Murray and was filmed 2 months after Kubrick's death in 1999. But with Kubrick notoriously reclusive even before his death, the odds are this one isn't going away. One of the most bizarre conspiracies come from an unlikely place. Number 2. Skater girls? Remember Avril Lavigne? That young pop star exploded onto the scene with hits like Skater Boy and had a brief superstar period as a pop-punk icon, and then faded, as teen stars often do. When she came back and released a new album, she looked and sounded rather different. Her sandy hair was now blonde. Her style was much more commercial and pop-like. Sounds like a pretty standard career transformation for a musician who wants to try out a new style. Nothing unusual here, right? Well, not if you ask the conspiracists. The theory is Avril Lavigne died in 2003 after being broken by her parents' divorce and was replaced by her stand-in Melissa Vandella. Vandella had a different style, and Lavigne's label just rolled with her new image. The problem is, well, a lot of things. For one thing, Lavigne's parents aren't divorced. Slight changes in Lavigne's face could be explained by minor cosmetic procedures. As for where the rumor came from, it originated on a Brazilian blog that now admits it was an experiment in how far you can spread a clearly fake conspiracy, to which the believers likely say, that's what they want you to think. But no conspiracy is spread further than this one. Number 1. Paul is dead. Today, only 2 of the Beatles remain, Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney. But if you ask some people, that band has been down one member much longer than anyone thought. They claim that McCartney perished in a car crash in 1966 while the band was having creative difficulties. But they were far too valuable for the band to end at the time, so the label put together a search to find the best McCartney substitute they could and slotted him into the band and then pretended nothing was wrong. But secrets tend to leak out, and eagle-eared fans claim they hear John Lennon whisper, "I buried Paul," on the song Strawberry Fields Forever. Why does this conspiracy theory endure so much? When people want evidence, they'll find it. Other audio clues include the random name Billy Shears on the album Sgt. Pepper, which led theorists to claim this was McCartney's doppelganger. Others play music backwards and claim to hear garbled messages buried in them. The band broke up, of course, and Lennon and Harrison have passed on, but the remaining members have never addressed these bizarre rumors, and McCartney would no doubt be very confused to hear rumors of his passing. But that hasn't stopped the theory from catching on, with a graphic novel by Paulo Barron giving it new life in 2020. If you're looking for the ultimate conspiracy, watch Real Origin of the Lizard People conspiracy theory, or check this video out.